The filth-ridden Albanian Mafia was said to be, by the British government, one of the biggest threats to law and order in Britain. How the filth-ridden paedophile ring, child trafficking, pieces of shit work is they find corrupt officials who are into paedophilia and stuff like that, and they record them and then they blackmail them. So if you're a predatory mafia and you're moving into a town, what you do is you take over the prostitution rings and the drug trade first of all, and then you get politicians in your pocket. But if you have a king, one that's vehemently opposed and will whack any cunt that he finds involved in paedophilia, you can't get corrupted government. The Catholic Church said many years ago the only good governance is Callaghan governance. Are you governed by the Callaghan? No. So what happens is the Catholic Church, when they took over from Callaghan, when the angel of the Lord disappeared, whenever we went back to the Lord, or went to sleep, whatever, his time, his generations, his work for many generations was up. He needed a rest. The Catholic Church took over. So the Catholic Church were adamant, back in the day, it's well written, and all the other tribes were adamant that to be ruled by the Callaghans, to be ruled by the Huguenot tribe, was the best form of governance, and that we were well documented as being kinder to the subservient, to the inheritance in our charge, is what we'll say, the inheritance in our charge, the ones we rule over on behalf of the Lord, in good governance and good faith, more importantly good faith. So when you're looking at people like Dua Lipa and UNICEF and stuff like that, and the Albanian Mafia from London, which are very powerful, you have to ask your question. You have to ask the question, and it has to be asked: is Dua Lipa in some way, shape or form involved with Albanian Mafia? And I can answer that for you. Yes. I can answer that directly for you as a yes. Has Dua Lipa been exposed to the sex trade in London and the Albanian Mafia? Yeah, more than likely. You see a lot of pictures of her knocking around Soho and places like that. But you know, she lived on her own when she was a child. And that was when the Albanian Mafia were moving in. And that was when the Albanian, in areas where I was working, they were moving in on the area where I was working. A lot of Albanians started to take over the doors. And I had a lot of trouble with the doormen. I had to go to the British Army, as a matter of fact. I had to go to the British Army to get back up against a crew of doormen that were linked to Albanian Mafia. And I had a lot of injuries because I was working with the doormen that were linked to Albanian Mafia. Now, I'm not saying for a second that all Albanians are bad. I'm not saying for a second that all Albanians are involved in the sex trade or anything. But what I am saying is, Albania is probably one of the most corrupt countries on the face of the earth. And it's a vicious place. They traffic children left, right and centre. They look out for people that are weak, and then they use them. And then eventually, because of the deception, now remember the teachings of Genghis. All warfare is based on deception. All warfare. So if they can find someone that they can compromise in a government, an official in government, or the federal officials that use prostitution houses, they can undermine the government, and soon there'll be a war, because deception brings warfare. Now, Albanian Mafia are notorious for peddling prostitution, young girls, young boys, whatever. That's what we're looking at. Now, I tried to set up the Paedophile Assets Bureau, because these are my sworn enemies. I absolutely fucking hate them. And I had the opportunity to whack every paedophile in the Albanian Mafia, and the Mafia next door to them, and the Mafia next door to them. and then I'd find out who they want, and I'd put them all in Guantanamo Bay and torture them, pull them apart limb from limb, inject them with all sorts of stuff so they'll talk, and I'd tear them apart piece by piece, and I'd have people cut them for all sorts of terrible pain and stuff if they didn't talk, and they didn't tell me where they were getting the children from and who the corrupt officials were. I racked them up for months on end. I keep them alive until they talk. Now, that puts me in a lot of danger, but you know, the boys want some targets, and there's your targets. And if they can't do that, well, if the boys can't handle that, they're not fit for purpose. And I'm out. I'm not working with anyone anymore. That's what I'm saying. Paedophile Assets Bureau. Corruption. Repugnant seduction exposing corruption. I wrote this poem ages ago, and it's a step by step walk through of what's going to happen before we take over. And it goes like this: it's institutionalized nation, rife with degradation, fundamentalist hodgepodgery, bastion of debauchery, priests who practice sodomy on teenage wannabes, babyface executors who polish off their shooters before riding off on scooters, Yahoo remember the Sioux, Lisbon Treaty democracy at its best, when no means yes, an anal penetration of a once proud nation, the final stage in its subjugation, a totalitarian solarium, muggy aquarium, culturally genetic, Orwellianly prophetic, psychological prognosis, stasis, psychosis, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. It goes on and anyway, but towards the end it goes with repugnant seduction, exposing corruption. Then way at the end it goes, tally ho, New York. Jesus is the New York, his yoke is lie. Let me little pause, look. Hello. Say hello. Yeah, so yeah, I've had a few runs in with the Albanian, with people linked to the Albanian Mafia, and all taking over the doors and all stuff like that. But I'm taking over now. Simple as that. I'm taking over the government, the Tory party. I'm taking over everything I see before me. So I'm Callahan. I am Callahan. I'm the O'Neill of the Gaels. I'm a king and I'm rising. And dare you steal what mine? How dare you take what I have claimed for me and give to another? You don't steal from the Callahan. If you don't believe me, ask the Queen. She'll let you know.